Yeah, I've got a thought on that, and that thought is red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Hello, I'm Summer Tothill and I regularly run Q&As with my supporters on Instagram on matters relating to gender equality. So what you're about to watch is 1 week's worth of these, and if you would like to get involved with them yourself, just come and follow me on Instagram at Summer Tothill. While you're here, please stick around and subscribe to my channel and check out the rest of the Ask a Feminist playlist. How to react to the argument that women shouldn't be paid for domestic labour and childcare because they do it for the good of their own family. I love this question because I think it's something that we run across a lot, this dichotomy between what we believe as payable labour that has value and labour that we think that we should just be duty bound to do out of love. And isn't it interesting that the labour that we're always duty bound to do out of love is the labour that gets characterised as feminine labour and women's work? So here's a tip for you. The easy way to tell if society actually values something is if men are willing to do it themselves, especially if they're willing to do it for free. So isn't it interesting that women have been characterized as naturally the gender who is willing to and happy to commit themselves to physical work for the good of the family for no pay, and yet men are expected to commit to the good of the family in an economical way that empowers them and that keeps them engaged in the public life, in positions of power, and in decision making that affects their own futures. It's almost like men actually understand that domestic servitude is a relentless drudgery to be avoided at all costs, no matter how much you love your family. They know that it is not pleasant to be bound to domestic and household and child-caring labour for no reward. And so they are effectively able to construct emotionally manipulative arguments to get themselves out of it while making women feel like they have to do it. So next time someone makes this argument to you that women should be doing it out of the goodness of their heart for the family, ask them why men aren't doing it out of the goodness of their heart for their families and letting women go and earn all the money and have all the power. Thoughts on a guy being touchy with you on the first date and not asking first? Yeah, I've got a thought on that, and that thought is red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Yes, it is amazing to have physical chemistry with someone right from the get-go, to get into the passion of intimacy quickly, and it is always really validating to know that someone is attracted to you and to be able to fulfill your attraction to each other in a timely fashion when you get to meet someone. However, all of that must come from a place of consent. And if men don't actively seek consent, then they are either overtly trying to take advantage of you or they are woefully ignorant and self-absorbed. And either way, you don't really want to continue dating a guy like that. I would not trust someone who got touchy-feely with me without at first very explicitly seeking an understanding of whether I would want that. And if he did it anyway, then I would never see that person again, and I don't think you should either. Tips for having a voice when it feels so hard in a dating relationship. Believe it or not, I find this very relatable. I know it probably seems like I have always been a hardline feminist bitch who's able to assert precisely what she wants from men at all times, but that's certainly not the case. I have been many, many times in the situation where I didn't feel like I was able to use my voice and speak up for what I wanted or for what I found unacceptable in a relationship. So it can happen to the staunchest of us. It certainly happened to me a lot in my early 20s. So I guess I have learned a few things about that feeling that I can share with you. The first thing I think to analyze is that when we are afraid to have a voice and speak up about what we need to say or say that we don't want, is what is it that we fear is going to happen if we do that, and what is it that we think that we're going to lose? So it's entirely possible and likely that what you feel is that if you speak up about something that you have to address with a man, he will just outright reject you and choose to end the relationship based on the fact that you chose to address a problem in the relationship. And I think we all have different backgrounds and different reasons to feel that way that can be attributed potentially back to how our parents were at taking feedback from us. The big thing to remember is that if they do react that way when you try to use your voice to address something, then you don't need to be with them. They're a terrible person to be with, and they're not a safe person for you to be with. Now, another thing I think that's really important to keep in mind is, what is it that you think that you have to lose? And can you decenter men and change the way that you think about what it is that men are bringing to your life, such that you feel confident to say what you have to say to them because you don't fear the loss of what it is that they are bringing to you, because you're not overly valuing what it is that they are bringing into your life. So a really good example is women can be quite hesitant to express what they need sexually, particularly in the moment, you know, even if it's just something as simple as just a little to the left. Could you do it a bit softer? Could you do it a bit faster? Because men can react quite negatively to that sort of feedback, as though we're telling them that they're bad in bed. But ultimately, they're not a safe person to have sex with if they're like that. So if that's how they're going to react, then why would you value the sexual experience that they're bringing to you? So keep that sort of logic in mind, I think. How do you retain a level of optimism or hope for men amongst all the truths you share? Well, that's making a big assumption that I actually do. Nah, I do feel optimistic. I couldn't go ahead with any of this if I didn't. And I suppose the foundation of that optimism is that I, like all feminists, know that men are human and therefore fundamentally capable of good. I know that men are not monsters, that they are not biologically wired to be violent, exploitative, oppressive, degrading assholes. I know that they are just humans who can be fantastic parents, good workers, kind, caring, generous partners, amazing friends. I know that men are human, and therefore I know that men can do better, and that is probably the driving force behind my feminism. It also gives me a great deal of encouragement that women are learning to wise up to the way that men behave in a way that is protective of women. So from the 4B movement to the decentering men movement to the growing body of work by young women online on social media, where they are wising up to things like internalized misogyny and patriarchal men, and young women especially, are teaching each other what to avoid in men, how to set down boundaries, how to protect themselves, and how to ultimately walk away from men and from romantic relationships with them, particularly when we are being exploited. So I think there's a lot of reason to have hope. That's it for this Q&A. Thank you so much for listening. Find me on Instagram at summertothill. That's summer with an O, spelt the same way as you see in this YouTube channel. I can't wait to see you there.